Hello, everybody. All right, so happy Thursday, everybody. It is Thursday, August the 3rd, 2023. We're almost through the first week of August here. Um, so we got a couple, so we wait for more people to show up. If, of course, if you haven't already, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people on here, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything we talk about tonight grabs your attention, um, feel free to comment and or ask questions. Anyways, while we're waiting for more people to show up, I've got a couple things to take care of beforehand, so I'll be right back. I'll put some music on, keep you all entertained while I'm gone. And I'll be right back. All right, so hopefully everybody's here today. Anyways, just do one last little thing. All right, so with that, all right, so now we're here. So let's see, we're 4 minutes in. Okay, so tonight we're gonna of course go over a couple of articles from Bounding into Comics. One of which is talking about Chuck Dixon explains why Marvel hates the Punisher so much. I know we did that before, but I guess he went over it again on his podcast, I believe. So we'll go over the article again. And let's see. Also, what else is on tip? There is one other piece of comic news as well that I saw on here. Oh yeah, Donnie Cates reveals he's recovering from a horrific car crash that resulted in brain damage. As sad as that is, I think some people might argue he was brain damaged before the car accident. Since he was one of those who I believe suffered from TDS, but that's another discussion for another day. But we'll go over that one as well. Plus, of course, we had the wrestling wrap up. Some last minute news in WWE. What to expect this weekend at SummerSlam. We'll go over AEW news, of course. Last night's Dynamite, the 200th episode of it, with some interesting changes, and of course, talk about what's going to be happening on Impact tonight as well. So, anyways, and of course, this day needs history when all is said and done as well. So, with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and let's get started on the show here. Just check out some. Alrighty then. So with all that, let's go ahead get started now. Okay, so our first article we're going to be looking at tonight will be Chuck Dixon explaining why Marvel hates the Punisher so much. Now, again, I know. Now, my guess is maybe there's an update here. Let me just screen down a little bit here. If there's anything that says like update. I think we kind of talked about this before as well. Yeah, because he's got a Punisher-esque, but he's a Punisher-esque Alpha Core, I believe, it's coming out. So, anyways, we'll go over this article. I think we went over it before as well, so not the same article, not maybe the same exact article, but Chuck Dixon explains why Marvel hates the Punisher. Article by John F. Trent, published yesterday. Longtime Punisher writer Chuck Dixon recently went in depth on why he believes Marvel Comics hates the Punisher. In episode 152 of his Ask Chuck Dixon series on YouTube, the gunslinger asked, quote, Chuck, I have been a fan of the Punisher since I was a kid. I've always wanted to ask, do they hate the Punisher because he doesn't fit into their vision? Or do they hate him because the idea and the fans liking the idea that refutes most of their, in smaller quotes, heroes don't kill argument, unquote. Dixon responded, quote, they don't like him for the same reason that DC doesn't like Guy Gardner, and fans like the Punisher for the same reason they like Guy Gardner. Most comic book characters are either brainiacs, mutants, scientists, whatever. There's very few superheroes that have blue-collar origins. Wow, so that's kind of interesting, his take on that. Blue-collar origin. Most comic book characters... Oh, okay, we already read that part. Frank Castle and Guy Gardner are blue-collar superheroes. They are average guys driven to extremes, and a lot of readers response to that because I think you meant to say respond to that, not response. Respond to that because a lot of readers aren't brainiacs, mutants, or scientists. They're driving a truck or stocking shelves or, working for a paycheck, unquote. quote, people respond to these characters. Okay, again, they use response as opposed to respond to these characters because of those origins and because they have blue collar origins. When they're written correctly, they say stuff and do stuff that other comic book characters won't. They don't have the same mores, the same code, unquote, he said. Specifically addressing the idea of superheroes not killing, Dixon said, now, as far as superheroes don't kill, Wolverine certainly kills. We see other comic book heroes, superheroes who kill. It's hard to believe Captain America didn't kill a lot of Nazis. He didn't take them all prisoner, so this is a misnomer. To single out Frank Castle because he kills people, if that's their argument, it's an inaccurate one, unquote. And what a lot of people don't realize too, in that many comic, especially back in the Golden Age, heroes killed plenty of villains in those stories, or indirectly had a hand in their deaths. So Batman killed, when Batman's first appearance, he killed the bad guy Albert Stryker, and then basically said, that's what happens to the lot of that kind. Now, granted, this is long before no guns or anything like that, but it was one of those things where, Stryker was trying to get away from Batman, and he fell into a vat of acid and died. Didn't do a Joker, mind you, but. Huh. Nothing so far. So, after discussing how America embraced Archie Bunker in All in the Family, he noted that Punisher followed a similar trajectory where blue-collar Americans embraced the character, while New York elites and writers were, quote, horrified at the results, unquote, but nevertheless they were still willing to make cash off of the character despite their distaste for it. Yeah, almost borderline hypocritical right there, if we can say. Dixon then detailed this changed for Punisher when, quote, new people took over at Marvel, and they were just really, really just embarrassed about everything about the Punisher, particularly his audience. They didn't like the Punisher, and they didn't like the people who liked the Punisher, unquote. Yes, a lot of these TDS people really hated the Punisher because the Punisher, in essence, I think if the Punisher was in our world, my guess is he might actually be a MAGA guy. That'd be my guess. And he'd have a lot of MAGA people who would be like, yeah, go Punisher. So. In fact, they did. One of the big, if you guys remember, one of the big screaming points for them was how a lot of military and police officers would actually have the Punisher's iconic skull and crossbones T-shirt under their uniforms. If you guys remember hearing about all that hoopla. Let's see. He then pointed to the tipping point, quote, and I think really this all came to a head when our military and police began using the Punisher skull symbol on uniforms. Yep, that's just what I was talking about. That was just what I was talking about just a moment ago. I mean, literally painted it on the sides of armored personnel carriers, personnel carriers, and Bradley fighting machines in Iraq. And suddenly the public was seeing the Punisher skull symbol. Many of them for the first time. Non-comic book readers didn't know what the symbol was, but here it was, popping up everywhere on car windows and things like that. And as I said, actually on military vehicles in Iraq, which would have been, of course, to the horror of many SJWs and TDS sufferers. Quote, and cops were wearing the symbol. Ew. Our soldiers are wearing the symbol. Oh, boo, boo, boo. We don't like them. And so we don't like them. We don't like the Punisher readers. We're going to take the Punisher and we're going to mangle him and we're going to destroy him. We're going to do what no other entertainment company has ever has done. We're going to purposely take one of our intellectual properties and tear it to the ground. And that's what they did. And it is for that reason, unquote, Dixon declared. Yep. It was the people who are now running, DC, DC to a lesser degree, but Marvel definitely, they are anti-American. Okay. It's not always the enemies without you have to worry about. Sometimes, many times, you actually have to worry more about the enemies within. And we've got, when you combine corporate media, the liberal academia, and the race baiters, those are the enemy within. Quote, any other lofty reason they give is BS. And we all know what that means. The main reason they wanted to get rid of Punisher is because they hated the Punisher. And they hate you for liking it. It's that simple, unquote, he asserted. Basically, it's not just the fact, it's not just really the fact that they hate the Punisher. It's what it boils down to. It's what the Punisher represents. The Punisher represents everything that is traditionally American. Being able to defend your own home with your constitutional right to carry a gun. Being innocent until proven guilty. Being able to speak your mind in whatever, these people want the police state. These people want to control the narrative. And the problem is, sooner or later, people are going to really get tired of it. And they're going to look to the Punisher and maybe take to doing what the Punisher would do. Sometimes you need a revolution in order to like really reset, and deal with bad people. Anyway, we continue on here. Dixon then concluded by rhetorically questioning, quote, why else would they do what they did in such a ham-handed Soviet-style deconstruction of an extremely popular fiction character? Who would do that? Why would they do that? They don't like you. It's as simple as that. Unquote. The reason they probably said he rhetorically asked because I think everybody who reads that probably knows exactly the reason why. Back in February 2022, Dixon also posited that the current crop of editors at Marvel not only have a contempt for Punisher, but a, quote, deep-seated dislike of the police and military as well, unquote. Yeah, they think the police and military have too much power. That's their belief. He said, quote, of course, they believe that until it's their house that's broken into. It's their family member that gets, hurt by a criminal. Then they want all the police they can get. So go figure that one out. He said, quite frankly, when I was at Marvel writing Punisher in the 90s, there were quite a few editors who didn't like the Punisher. They sure liked to have him show up in their book because it would increase sales, but they didn't like him as a character. And Marvel didn't seek those kind of readers even then, unquote. Quote, they certainly don't seek the kind of readers who would like the Punisher now. In addition to their contempt for the Punisher, I think this current crop of editors had a deep-seated dislike of the police and military as well. So it's the old gang of deplorable thing. They don't want to deal with them, and they don't like the idea that they use a symbol. And I think they don't quite understand why the police and military adopted the Punisher symbol, unquote, he continued. Let's see. After discussing the Punisher's iconic symbol, Dixon also added, quote, the woke crowd at Marvel are changing the symbol and changing the Punisher's entire modus. Uh-huh. Because they don't like guns. Even though they have as much of a constitutional right to own and use them as anybody. But yet these fools think that you can talk your way out of every situation. You can't. Sometimes you actually have to pull the trigger to get something done. He's carrying samurai swords now, which can also kill, by the way. You can stab somebody in the heart, lop off a limb, cause serious damage. In some ways, swords are probably more gory and grotesque than using a gun. So, yeah. Because they are embarrassed. They are embarrassed to be associated with people who probably don't share their worldview. And that's really as simple as it gets, unquote. Mm-hmm. Quote. And do they hate their fans? Well, yeah, except they've converted so non-fans now. Yeah, making statements like, well, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book. And then they start to cry when you follow their advice. And you follow their counsel. Let's see. So many people who followed Marvel for years and years have stopped, unquote, he posited. Quote, have gone away, they've left comics or looking for some alternative to what Marvel is offering. As well as DC and Image and a few of the other mainstream comics, mainstream corporate comic companies. We definitely see the independent market grow, right? Just go over to Fund My Comic and see for yourself. Number of projects people like. Excuse me. Alright, so anyways, back to the article here. Quote, is it a bad business model? Of course it is. But generally, comic book companies, the big two in particular, are kind of clueless about their own readership. They don't know who is reading them. They don't reach out for new readers. They don't care to find out what their readers want in order to keep them reading. They stopped doing that 20 years ago, or in 2003, I guess, unquote, he asserted. While Marvel Comics alienates their Punisher readers, Dixon is hoping to gobble them up. He's working on a new character and series at Arcaven Comics titled Black Warrant. Yeah, Dixon detailed, quote, it's not exactly a secret that the Punisher is my favorite character to write. For whatever reason, I have an affinity for the guy, and the stories came easily. But if we're being honest, Frank Castle was never a good fit at Marvel Comics. I remember this quote. I remember this quote from, I guess, the last article I read on this. Anyways, quote, there were always restrictions when writing about him, unquote, Dixon explained. And we've heard this quite a bit. If you guys remember yesterday's show when we were going over the Indie Comic Showcase, that's the last couple of weeks we've covered the Indie Comic Showcase, independent Indie Comic Showcase. We've heard that from some of the writers who are doing independence. Part of the reason they're doing independence is because they don't want to deal with the restrictions that would, in particular, would go with working for the big two. Let's see. Dixon explained, quote, editors waved me off for, in smaller quotes, going too far, end quote. And this is his latest character, Black Warrant, right here. Kind of a grayish color there. With Marvel editorial out of the way, he's ready to supplant the Punisher with Black Warrant. Quote, now I'm working on Black Warrant, which is in the same vigilante justice genre, except the guardrails, training wheels, and safety bumpers have been taken off, unquote. He added, quote, I'm allowed to take the genre in places it's never been taken and having a blast doing it, unquote. Not only will Dixon be doing Black Warrant at Arcaven Comics, but he's also teaming up with Joe Bennett to introduce a new vigilante in Eric July's Rippaverse after the two collaborate on Alpha Core #1, which of course we were also talking about, a few days ago, right? Joe Bennett was blacklisted for, if you guys remember, blacklisted from Marvel for a political cartoon he did on the Brazilian dictator. I believe it, the Brazilian or Peruvian dictator. It might have been Peru, actually. Peruvian dictator. Dixon told Bounding in the Comic, quote, the second thing I did for, in brackets, Rippaverse, was kind of the vigilante, sort of Batman Punisher mode but I sort of turn everything on its head in a way that Marvel and DC wouldn't allow you to do it. Unquote. He clarified, quote, but not in a R-rated way. I'm still writing comics for a precocious 10-year-old. Unquote. What do you make of Dixon's analysis on why Marvel hates Punisher? I think he's spot on. I think a lot of people would say he's spot on with his analysis. Punisher is the type of character that doesn't fit their current mold of a hero they want. You know, they want heroes more like Snowflake and Safe Space. That's what these jewel clutchers want. They want heroes like Snowflake and Safe Space instead of heroes like Punisher, Wolverine, Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, Batman, you know. But fans, they want Punisher and Batman and Guy Gardner. So go figure what these maroons. Anyways, I'm going to need to step away for a moment. If I set up my next article here. Go over this one in a moment here. We got another person here. Well, if you haven't already, if you can help out by liking and sharing the stream, seeing if we can get some more friendly people in here, that'd be appreciated. Also, anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Anyways, I do need to step away for a moment. I'll be right back. I will put some music on. All right. So with that, let's get on to this next one. Yeah. Marvel Comics writer Donny Cates reveals he's recovering from horrific car crash that resulted in brain damage. Article by John F. Trent, publisher. Now, mind you, as I said earlier, granted this is sad, and not that I'm going to out and out dump on the guy, but some people, I do know that some people might feel he was already brain damaged even before car accident because he suffered from TDS. So, but granted, making light of the guy after an accident is kind of like speaking ill of the dead, right? So that's why we don't do it too much here. Anyways, Marvel Comics writer Donny Cates recently revealed he's recovering from a horrific car crash that resulted in brain damage. Cates just informed YouTube channel Comic Pop returns at San Diego Comic Con about the crash. Hosts Tiff and Sal shared their conversation with Cates. Quote, Donny Cates apparently was involved in an automobile accident. He was severely injured. He actually has the scars to prove it. It's insane, unquote. Cal continued, quote, broke a bone near his ocular area. Ocular area is the eye area right here. It's basically like this, these areas right here. Ocular, um, that's the area around your eyes, basically. Let's see. And went through a severe period of rehabilitation and now trying to essentially recover the pieces of his life, unquote. Tiff then added, quote, he's like missing 6 months. Well, again, this area here, granted he broke a bone in here, probably sustained some other head trauma as well, which is what probably led to the brain damage. Quote, he doesn't remember like the last at least 6 months, or at least that's what he said, unquote, Sal reiterated. Sal then detailed Kate's stutter is now more pronounced after the accident. Quote, he has been very vocal about the fact that he used to have a stutter. You might have caught it any of his okay, they forgot to put it in any of his interviews. It's a little bit more pronounced nowadays. And again, trauma to the head might do that. The malfunctioning of the nerves, controlling his speech would have probably been even more damaged due to the effect of the accident. He then emphasized, quote, he was severely injured and he's now recovering and trying to pick up the pieces of his life, unquote. Sal then also detailed that Cates divorced his wife. Cates would provide further information about his accident to Bleeding Cool, informing the outlet, quote, I was in the back seat of a car pulling off the highway when we were hit by a truck from behind, sending my head into not just the middle console, but also my open laptop. Yeah, that will be quite a concussive blow. The result of which shattered my orbital socket. That's basically this right here. That's your orbital socket right there. I alluded to it earlier. Sliced my head open like a grape, and caused a non insignificant amount of bleeding on my brain. Not insignificant. Yeah. Rather than saying, well, maybe that's just the damage to his brain working there. But rather than say not insignificant, why not just say significant amount of bleeding on the brain? that would make more sense. But then again, if he had head trauma here, that might explain why he was put it that way. But anyways, he continued, quote, "So yeah, for me, I was in a car heading to the airport, and then boom, kind of teleported to a hospital ER with no real idea what the HE double hockey sticks um, had happened or who I was, or yeah, not my favorite thing that's happened this year, and it's been a weird year," unquote. So we continue on here. Referencing the video from Comic Pop Returns, Kate added, quote, "But like the video says, I'm back on the mend, and it's better every day. The good news is that I've had the opportunity to read my own books and have them all be a surprise. Did you know Cosmic Ghost Rider is actually Frank Castle? Wild." He concluded, "I'd like to say I'm sorry to all my fans and friends and YouTube trolls and whoever else if it seemed like I've just disappeared. I've been I've had to relearn how to tie my own shoes and feed myself and all that boring crap. But I assure you, a little brain damage won't stop me from doing whatever it is that I do that you all seem to enjoy so much." Cage is known for his work on a number of Marvel comic books, including Thanos, Thor, Venom, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Hulk, Absolute Carnage, and Doctor Strange Damnation. His last published work at Marvel was Ultimate Invasion #1, which released in June. Before that was Thor #33, which released in April. Outside of Marvel Comics, he's known for his creator-owned work such as Redneck and God Country, published at Image Comics. And there we go with that one. Alrighty then. Oh, a couple of interesting stories there. Did take us a good chunk of time. We're at the 43-minute mark now, so now we'll get ready to move on to the wrestling wrap up. You're in love. That's the way it should be. 'Cause I want you to be here. You're in love. And I know you're not in love with. All right, so without any further ado, let's go ahead and move on to the wrestling round. First off, on the WWE side of things, in fact, I should have probably gone there first. Of course, as Vince McMahon right now is recovering from spinal surgery, he hasn't been looking to make too many appearances. However, due to the subpoena that he was served yesterday, you know, he did have to respond. He responded by saying that he was innocent of what he was being charged with, or not as much charged, but what he's being accused of. As I mentioned yesterday, of course, Vince McMahon had a search warrant issued against him, as well as having a grand jury subpoena over his hush money scandal that came out like last year. In that, of course, he was accused of paying women to keep quiet on some of the extramarital affairs he would have, while they're trying to look for ways to get to him, as again, in the same vein that the political class is trying to get to Donald Trump. You know, um, and this is, of course, now McMahon hopes to be around enough to, at least help conclude the sale to Endeavor and stuff like that. But he released a statement today, claiming innocence, as he pointed out that he was investigated by his own company, the board members, and they found nothing amiss. So, which allowed him, of course, to come back to the WWE. Now, aside from that, other news like this Saturday, of course, WWE will be having its SummerSlam event, and it will be from Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. Main event will have Roman Reigns defending the WWE title and Universal title in a tribal combat match against Jey Uso. The WWE World Heavyweight title will be on the line as Seth Rollins defends against Finn Balor. Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes will be engaging in their rubber match of their series, as each of them have taken a match. The WWE Women's title will be on the line in a triple threat match as Asuka defends the title against Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair. Ricochet takes on Logan Paul. In an MMA rules fight, mixed martial arts rules fight, the Shayna Baszler versus Ronda Rousey. And they're going to have a SummerSlam battle. Now, the SummerSlam Battle Royal, and the problem with this is that it's led to some frustration within the women's division with how they're being booked. Said that there are a number of women, this is part of the reason why the Rhea Ripley, Raquel Rodriguez match may have been taken off. But for this SummerSlam Battle Royal, thus far announced as participating, you have Shinsuke Nakamura, Sheamus, Tommaso Ciampa, LA Knight, Chad Gable, and Otis. So right now they're waiting to fill out the rest of the SummerSlam Battle Royal. But SummerSlam will be coming up this Saturday from Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. With that now let's get over to AEW. As, of course, in AEW news, they had their 200th episode last night of Dynamite. And with that being said, among the matches that they had for the show, and there are a couple other interesting announcements too. We'll get to those in a moment. So the matches themselves, Chris Jericho and Konosuke Takeshita defeated Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara of the Jericho Appreciation Society, leading to some more heat within the JAS. As Jericho, and trying to find himself, maybe looking to distance themselves from his young charges to focus on himself and become part of the Don Callis family of the two of them. And apparently also Konosuke Takeshita is taken up to utilizing the walls of Jericho and calling it the walls of Takeshita. In an anything goes 3-way match, Trent Beretta defeated the best friends member Trent Beretta defeated the Blackpool Combat Club's John Moxley and the Lucha Brothers Penta El Zero Miedo. Really highlighting the fact that the best friends faction and the BCC might be going to war, as basically best friends, much like Dark Order, was one of those factions that was further down the card, but yet are getting a chance to shine in a feud against a group like the Blackpool Combat Club. And you had, of course, actually not in that one, it was a little later, but the next match saw the members of the Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, defeat the team of Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, and Satman Singh. Brandon Cutler was in the corner for the Elite, while Sanjay Dutt and Karen Jarrett were in the corner of Jarrett, Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, and Satman Singh. And you saw interference from a number of, you saw not just those who are already down ringside getting involved in the match, but you also saw the Hardys and Adam Page also get involved in the match. In a match for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships, the recently crowned Aussie Open, Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher, defended and retained the titles over El Hijo del Vikingo and Commander. Now, Vikingo and Commander look like they're a pretty good team together. It'll be interesting to see, how things work out for them. In the main event, Toni Storm defended the AEW Women's World title against Hikaru Shida, in which Hikaru Shida won, staving off, the attempted interference at times from the other Outcast members who were at ringside, Saraya and Ruby Soho. Some other news that, of course, happened on there included a match signed for next week's Dynamite, as Rob Van Dam is now All Elite, as he signed this past week and came out at the behest of Jerry Lynn to answer a challenge posed by Jack Perry for the FTW title. Jack Perry had initially challenged Jerry Lynn to, but Jerry Lynn, citing the fact that he could, with all the bolts and screws in his neck, could not get medically cleared to compete, called upon an old friend of his, RVD. Now, some of you who may have watched ECW in the late 90s and early 98, 99, 2000, around that time, you probably saw some of the classic that Lynn and RVD had, in ECW. These are considered two of the better workers of all time. And of course, RVD, well, he couldn't come out to anything that the WWE produced for him, but he did come out to Kilgore's "What Do You Say?" In other segments, you had the first match for All In, which is just a little over 2 weeks. 3 weeks away now. I guess it'll be 3 weeks as of this Sunday. The first match for All In at Wembley Stadium was announced as MJF brought out a contract for Adam Cole to sign, and it's now official. MJF will be defending the AEW World Heavyweight title against Adam Cole at Wembley Stadium, which did not seem to make Roderick Strong too happy, and the Kingdom duo of Mike Bennett and Matt Taven coming out to kind of stir the pot there in the backstage segment. Of course, MJF made this announcement during his heart-to-heart with the fans, as we're seeing him more as a face right now, but people are just counting the days till one of them screws the other over. So who's is MJF going to go back to being heel, or is he, all right, he's not full fit. Now, granted, MJF is not full face. He has not gone full face. He's a tween. He's at this point more of a tweener. You know, he's not necessarily a full heel, but he's not a full face either. Okay. In fact, he was even asking the fans. He's saying, "Yeah, I know I'm still a scumbag, but I'm your scumbag." He's our scumbag. Da, 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 da. He's our scumbag. So the Tampa crowd really got into that, though. So, but people just counted the days to see who screws who here. So those are some of the other segments. Again, we're about 3.5 weeks away from All In. That the last weekend of August is going to be a very busy week in the world of professional wrestling. You've got, of course, NWA holding its 75th anniversary show that weekend. All In's happening that weekend. Impact Wrestling will also have its Emergence pay-per-view. That's going to be quite a busy weekend that weekend. Let's see. Yeah, so anyway, so that's all the AEW news. So now let's go over what's on tap for tonight's Impact Wrestling. As the BTI show will have a match between Giselle Shaw taking on Heather Reckless. And it was taped. They're coming to you from Cicero Stadium and on tonight's Impact Wrestling. On tonight's Impact Wrestling, in a number one contender tournament match, first round match, you had the Rascals of Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz. Zachary Wentz, formerly Nash Carter and WWE's NXT, taking on Mike Bailey and Jonathan Gresham. Heath takes on Alan Angels in a singles match, and for the Impact Digital Media title, there a three-way match in which Kenny King defends title against former champ Joe Hendry and Yuya Uemura. So, as these shows are from their Chicago Heat tapings that happened last Friday, as we said, and Impact Wrestling is busy in the coming weeks too. As 2 weeks from this Sunday, I believe, will be the Multiverse event, their co-promoted event with New Japan, and then Emergence, already announced for Emergence, of course, as I mentioned earlier, as I mentioned last week. Trinity will be defending the Knockouts Women's World title against Deonna Purrazzo, the recently former champ, as Deonna Purrazzo exercises her rematch clause at Emergence. So let's see. Let me just take one more peek at Impact here for a moment to see if there's any matches announced for the Multiverse event coming up on the 20th. See if there's any there as of yet. So the Multiverse United 2, For Whom the Bell Tolls event coming from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Let's see, specifically the 2300 Arena. I think that's basically the old Viking Hall, the old matches announced for the Multiverse United, For Whom the Bell Tolls event include for the Impact World Championship, Alex Shelley will be defending against Hiroshi Tanahashi. Let's see. Mike Bailey teams with Hiromu Takahashi to take on Trey Miguel and Leo Rush. And then in another tag team match, the TMDK duo of Shane Hayes and Zack Sabre Jr. I believe Zack Sabre Jr. is current IWGP World Television title, holder, will be taking on the team of Eddie Edwards and Moose. So that's happening on the 20th, I believe. Yeah, 20th. And then a week later will be the Emergence pay-per-view. I overshot. Okay, that's always nice to have happen. The Emergence pay-per-view is happening once again in Toronto, the Rebel Entertainment Complex in Toronto. As I said, already announced the Knockout World title match between Trinity and Donna Purrazzo. The Impact Knockouts, okay, so it's been announced that the Knockouts tag team titles will also be on the line as the team of MK Ultra, the team that came together of Killer Kelly and Masha Slamovich, will be defending against Giselle Shaw and Samantha Evans. In an 8-man tag team match, you have you have X Division champion Leo Rush teaming with Bully Ray, Moose, and Brian Myers to take on Josh Alexander and the threesome known as Time Machine, Impact World Champion Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, and Kushida. Kushida right now is the #1 contender to the X Division title match. So there we go with that one. So now, with all that being done and said, now it's time to, because we're just over the hour mark here, it's time to start winding down a bit here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take, today being Thursday, August the 3rd, 2023, we're going to take a look back at this day in each history. 93, 2013, and 2018. Okay. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in each history. First, we're going to head back 30 years ago today. As on this date 30 years ago today, the 420th issue of Captain America, which started out as Tales of Suspense, mind you. 420th issue of Captain America went on sale from Marvel Comics on this date 30 years ago today. So for $1.25 with 32 pages, the story was called Skull Sessions, written by Mark Ruenwald, penciled by Richard Levins, inked by Daniel Belandi, lettered by Joseph Rosen, and colored by George Roussos. So on this date 30 years ago today, the 420th issue of Captain America went on sale on this date 30 years ago today. Moving on to 10 years ago today, on this date 10 years ago today, Pacific Northwest wrestler Dutch Savage passed away at the age of 78. Known primarily for his work in Don Owens' territory in the Pacific Northwest, Dutch Savage, who also went by the names Dutch Schultz Lonnie Brown, was originally trained by Luke Brown, a big powerhouse of a man. Won multiple titles in both the Pacific Northwest and the Vancouver area. A 7-time Pacific Northwest heavyweight champion, 12-time Pacific Northwest tag team champion with a number of different partners. While up in Vancouver, he was a 13-time Vancouver. He held the Vancouver version of the Canadian tag team titles 13 times with several different partners, as well as being Vancouver's two-time world tag team champion Vancouver version with Don Hardin, who later become known as the Spoiler. Don Hardin was one of the first guys to use the whole tightrope walk, clubbing forearm combo that, of course, Undertaker and made famous for old school. So on this date, 10 years ago today, Dutch Savage, whose real name is Frank Stewart, passed away at the age of 78. And 2013 is just so nice. Gonna hit it twice. It's also happening on this day 10 years ago today. On Nickelodeon, Rabbids Invasion, and on YTV up in Canada, Oh No, It's an Alien Invasion, both premiered on this date 10 years ago today. So on this date 10 years ago today, Rabbids Invasion and Oh No, It's an Alien Invasion both premiered on this date 10 years ago today. And finally, our last piece in each history, we head back 5 years ago today. As on this date 5 years ago today, from Bone Animation Studio in Japan, the anime movie My Hero Academia 2 Heroes premiered in Japan on this date 5 years ago today. On this date 5 years ago today, Bone Studios My Hero Academia 2 Heroes premiered in Japanese theaters on this date 5 years ago today. All right. So, anyways, I thank you all for being here tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. So, don't forget, tomorrow night I'll have Rick Piper on with me as we will be looking back to November of 1939. Looking over comics that went on sale from that time. From Fox Feature Syndicate, we'll be looking at Fantastic Comics, Mystery Men Comics, Wonder World Comics. We'll be looking over the features of Samson, the Flame, Blue Beetle, and Zanzibar the Magician. So I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow night, as well as Sunday when we do our panel show. And with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope y'all got a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. Anyways, I will talk to y'all later. Bye.